So welcome to Scrapbook Live. I'm Megan Jacks. Thanks for joining me today. It's Black Friday. It is November 28th. It is the last Friday of the month. We are doing this a little bit earlier in the day. So I have some borders for you. And it's typical fashion for me. Like, we'll take some borders off the Creative Memories blog and we're going to reimagine them with the latest collections or different tools. This particular one I'm going to show you, you've already seen a preview of them, is the Angels BMC. And I did this, I actually put these together at a crop that I had in October. And it was because for various reasons, I'm not 100% sure what they were, Creative Memories didn't quite have as many examples for their blog using the Angels Chain BMC. But what's really nice about it is even when we are missing or we don't have that inspiration directly from Creative Memories for a specific tool, a lot of times we can just adapt something already from the blog or other things that you've seen done by other people. You can kind of dissect what they've done, what kind of a punch have they used, and you just substitute things in. That's a great thing about really all of scrapbooking, is that you can scrap lift and adapt it to your tools, to your collections, to what you need at that any given moment. So for this one, I needed Angels Chain BMC. I needed to show how it could be used, and I wanted to use it with the Magic of Christmas collection, so that I put these together. You will note in the handout, they are based on the Candy Cane Chain Border Maker cartridge that came out in 2021 with the pretty sure it was Joy to the World collection. So this is about 4 years old, but we're going to revisit it. I'm going to show you there's some great techniques in there, and we're going to go ahead and put those pieces together today. I'm going to switch over here to my overhead camera. Just as a quick reminder, if you're watching this with me live right now, you can get the handout. There's a link in the comments and from the Facebook Live. If you're watching this later on YouTube, there will be a link in the description below that'll take you to my blog, where I will have that printable PDF that you can access. And of course, there's always a link on that QR code on the handout if you want to go directly to the Creative Memories blog and see the original blog article. All right, so let me go ahead and go over here to my overhead camera. Here we go. So we're going to walk through these pieces, or these the borders one by one. So I've got my handout here, and we're going to start off with what they call the Happiest Season border. It's the first one, and it's simply, they call it the Happiest Season because they happen to use that sticker. And it is just a really lovely kind of basic. They did a technique here where they punch the border into different colors and then cut out individual candy canes and layered those on there. That is a really nice technique. Especially when you have a very repetitive pattern, it's easy to bring in some additional color. I could have done the same with my angels. I certainly could have made my angels all different colors. But what I liked was on the original marketing materials from Creative Memories, they did show a lovely little halo glow behind each one of the angels. And I thought that was adorable. And what makes this technique even better is you can actually use another one of your Border Maker punch cartridges, cyclic circles. This is the perfect size to be able to put those little halos behind, or the little golden glow behind them. So if you have this BMC, you'll be able to do it. Real quick, let me get you a measurement on that circle. I know everybody's going to ask if you don't have it. It looks to be, it's about 5/8 of an inch diameter. So it's a pretty tight circle. I'm not sure that that's anything that any of our punches can do, our current punches, but you might be able to play around with it and find something. And they could be a little bit bigger if you wanted as well. But here's where we're going. So I have literally, to create this border, I have literally just copied all of these same measurements in the directions, but just did them in other colors out of the Magic of Christmas. So the first thing that I've done is I did need to punch my border. So I punched my border. I've pre-punched several of my borders already because you don't need to see me doing that. So I've gone ahead, I punched three angel chains out of the white shimmer paper. I have three. We use three of them for the borders. You might need a fourth. You might need two for the last border that we create, but you can start off with three if you just want to go ahead and get those punched. And then you will need two of the angel chain punched in gold. We'll use that for border number 2. And then you will want 1 row of cyclic circles punched because you're going to need 12 of those little circles, and you will get 12 of them when you punch 1 row out of the gold. You can punch by hand. Like you can see here, I really just squeeze that in on a scrap. I didn't care too much. Or you could punch using the actual paper tray and the cartridge itself. So I'm going to show you here. I've already done some of them in the interest of time, but let me quickly show you how to do the other ones here. It is really, really simple. You're going to use some, and I'm going to think, oh my gosh, did I lose one of my gold circles already? You just use a little bit of repo adhesive on the back of your angel's head. You could also use your precision point adhesive pen if you want to. If your name is Emily Gallo, that's going to be your preference. I just have to give Emily a hard time. She's not a fan, can you believe it, of the repositionable adhesive. So here we go. We just keep putting those on, and it's real easy to just center it on there, and they get nice little golden glow behind them. I did manage to lose one of my halos, one of my golden circles. It has disappeared on me. I'm not sure where it went to. We'll do a quick look for it, and I'm not gonna worry too much. You get the idea. I don't know if I have a piece of gold scrap or not. I'm looking while you guys are punching, if you happen to be scrapping along with me today. I know many of you just watch and you'll come back to it later. I will worry about that one. I can add that one in later after I find it. So I've got my angels all set to go. I can set this to the side for right now. And then we're going to dive into actually making the border itself. So I've picked out some colors that I liked out of the collection. I felt like with this particular collection, I wanted to really focus on some of the more tonal pieces. There are a lot of tonal pieces used in the original borders, and so I kind of led with that too. If they used a tonal paper, I tried to use a tonal paper. There was a couple and if they use a designer paper, like more of a statement print, I tried to use a statement print, but there were a few exceptions. Some of it comes down to is how the prints of Magic of Christmas interact with each other as compared to how the original papers from Joy to the World interact with each other. Every collection is just a little bit different. Yeah, so you guys are commenting, probably check my sleeves. I probably knocked it on the ground. I have a blanket on me. It's probably because I'm a little cold today. And so it's all good. I will find it. I'll punch another one later. So the first thing we do is we're going to go ahead with our background piece, which you can see in is the blue. So the tonal blue. The opposite side to that is the Christmas trees, the pretty Christmas tree paper, but we're going to use the blue side, the blue holly. And I need that to be a 2 3/4 inch because this is saying where they talk about a 2 3/4 inch of teal stripe paper, I'm going to be using the blue. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this at 2 3/4. This is going to become my base piece. Move all my other papers out of the way for the moment. We'll be pulling them in one by one. So there's my base piece. Next up, I need to have this kind of, it's a green, a tonal green. In the original layout, if you're looking at the handout, it is that kind of that blue, or excuse me, the green leaves with the berries on there. But I could not find a paper that I liked. I maybe could have used the plaid paper there, but I ended up just wanting the plaid I thought was a little bit much, a little high contrast. So I wanted to keep it a little more muted, but still used in here. So I decided to use that in a different spot. I'm going to use the green fur paper, and I'm going to cut this at 2 1/4 inch. 2 1/4 inch. Some of these measurements you will have some flexibility with. If you think the border is a little too big, you could probably dial it back a little bit. And that's going to sit up here. And the next up is where they use bronze shimmer paper, but I am using the plaid. So they talk about using a 1 5/8 inch of bronze shimmer, and I'm using a 1 5/8 inch of plaid. So 1 5/8, 5/8 is just past that 1/2 inch mark, 1/8 of an inch past the 1/2 inch. And this, I am still using my straight blade. I will come in with my, I'm going to use twist. So here's my, still using straight blade. All of these were done with the straight blade. Next up, I do want to use the twist blade. You could use any of them that you want. I wanted to use something, just one of the newer blades. Rhythm and Twist are the two new ones from Creative Memories. And I'm going to cut, this is where I'm going to be cutting. I need to cut what they show in the white cardstock. Let me see. Oh, they actually use, they call it plaid because it was a very faded white tonal plaid. I am just going to be using the red bow paper. This has bows on it, in case you didn't know. There's some bows. It does have a direction to it. So if you are cutting it, you'll want to make sure the top edge is to the side before you cut. Now, since I am using a decorative blade, I do need to establish my the decorative edge. So I'll do that. And this next piece, the paper here, they said they wanted you to use a 1.5 inch strip. The challenge with the decorative blades is, where is the 1/2 inch? Do you, are you coming all the way over? Let me show you here. And are you going to just the top of that decorative blade touches that 1/8 or that line? Here's my 1.5 inch line right here. You can see that black line. Am I just going to the tip? Am I covering it completely? I found in this particular case, I am going to just go just to the top of the design. I'm not going to cover it completely. I'm going to go just to that edge. So my widest point should be at 1.5 inches. I actually cut it one time when I was making these borders. I cut it where it was covered up more and it was a little too wide. You weren't seeing enough of that plaid back there. And then this sits in there. And what I'm looking for, it's kind of hard to see. Let me bring it up a little bit closer. Is I wanted to make sure that when I center, that I can see that plaid. If I go too wide, I wouldn't be able to see any plaid, which if you're using more of a solid tonal color may not matter as much. But if I have just a little bit showing like you do over here, you just can't see all those colors. So I wanted to make sure it was going to sit a little bit more centered and have a little bit more exposure. All right, so this is where then they go into step 3, is where you actually make the border itself, which I have already done, and I've already managed to misplace. Oh, there they are, my angels. And these will sit on here. Now, everything, for the most part, you think it should be centered. But if you look at the details of the border, the green is centered on the blue. The green is absolutely centered on the blue. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to grab my adhesive, and we'll go ahead and put those on the piece there. This is centered. There's quite a bit of the blue showing. This is an area where, depending on how you feel about how wide the border is, you could probably take down the size of that blue background by 1/8 of an inch if you wanted to. And then here, I'm going to go ahead and center these 3 pieces together. So I have my plaid, I have my twist cut red bows, and then I have my angels. So I'm actually going to put my angels on my paper first. It's going to sit on top of the red. I'm going to pull my adhesive off of the top of that angel's head there, so that when I need to slide in that golden halo, I can do so. And this just gets centered right on top of the red. I love the red here. It just pops those white gowns, the white of the angels and that pretty yellow, the golden glow. And then this is going to sit centered on top of the plaid. We go. It's centered there. So we can see all that pretty plaid, all those pretty colors coming through. Looks lovely. Now, here is where we have the option. We could center this in the middle of our border. You can definitely tell we have kind of a chunky, we have chunky outside borders here and a little bit thinner with the plaid. But the original border actually has it where it sits up a little higher and has more space down below. So you kind of have some discretion on how you put it on there. You may need to see if you have your embellishment details you're going to put on here, how you want it to look. I will be completely honest with you. I don't have my original borders where I have the pieces on there because they are in a box working their way back from Pennsylvania. And so I actually have to pull up the picture. I'm doing that right now to show you even what I did because yeah, I didn't, I don't want to say I messed up, but I definitely, here's, you can see there the border, the details that I used. I used that little angel with one of the circles and the December 25th, the border, or the title, I think it was off a sticker. So you can kind of figure out when you have your embellishments that you're going to include or title, anything you're going to do in here, maybe how you want to position everything. I'm going to go ahead and leave it a little bit more up towards the top, giving me some more space down here. I like that look. It's just something a little bit different. Not everything has to be centered all the time. I think, that's kind of a default that we just center things in there, but you could definitely come in a little bit, giving yourself some more space here at the bottom. You could also then come in with some additional like a doodling journal or not journal. You could put some journaling down here if you really wanted to, but coming in with more of some squiggly lines or whatever your heart desires, or maybe you'll just have the stickers or an embellishment piece that goes down there. But that is going to be border number 1. And let me show you, oh, here it is. You can see here, I have the 2 matching borders now that could go on a layout. I'll have to put that last halo on there. So now we're going to go into border number 2. And what's great about border number 2, the Deck the Halls border, is that it has a technique in there that I really like. And I've used it a couple times. It is how to create a upper and lower outline to the borders, which is a really nice detail here where I wanted to have my angels in there, but I didn't necessarily want to do I didn't want to do the halos again. You're like, well, how can I give a little bit of definition? I like the angels punched in white, but they needed something a little bit more. And I actually experimented with this one. Do I want to punch them in the gold and highlight them in the white? And I decided I was still going to stick with the white highlighted in gold. So it's really nice about this particular technique is you get to see if you punch it 3 times. So you're going to punch once in your main color. So in the original Deck the Halls border there, they have punched that Candy Cane Chain in the red. And then they come in with a second color, the accent color, and you need to punch 2. You need to have one that's going to sit high and then one that's going to sit low. This doesn't work for every single border punch, but it does work pretty well for many of them. So that's something to think about when you're wanting to play around with it. This particular technique does not need to be used just for this border. You can use this technique with any of your border punches and then work those borders into other projects. So what we're going to do is I've punched my white. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use some repo adhesive on here, and I'm going to focus my repo adhesive along the top edge of my border. And I'm going to come here and grab my upper, this is the top highlight. And so I just put my angels a little bit lower. I'm looking for some uniformity across their wings and at the top of their head. So we've got the top done. So we've just got some pretty uniform across the top. I'm looking for that nice, equal, even amount across the top of their wings. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to focus my adhesive a little bit more towards the bottom. And then for this time, I will be raising the angels up and I'm looking for that uniformity across the bottom. So below the bottom of their gown. Trying to find the right words to describe the parts of the angels. So what we end up is that nice gold above and below the main angel that's done there in the white shimmer paper. So I've done these in white shimmer and the gold shimmer, so it gives them that nice little bit of sparkle. Now the rest of this border, here's my original that we're gonna be showing. We are gonna start off with a green base. So I'm gonna use, there it is. The green here, I do need it to be a 2.5. And so where they talk about using gold stripes tonal paper, I am using the green. I am sticking with their measurements, so 2.5 inches. Now, remember, we have our twist blade or your decorative blade still in your trimmer. You're gonna wanna take that out. You will wanna cut 2.5 inch with your straight blade. You could do any of these with your decorative blade, any place we use straight blade. Pretty much when you're doing borders, you can always use a designer blade too, for the most part. So we're gonna do it 2.5 inches. This is our base. Next up, one of the details in this particular border that they have done is there was a set of stickers in there that were see that wavy, that dark blue wavy at the top and the bottom. That was, I believe, a set of stickers that they used. You could probably use double rickrack if you really like that look. I am just going to mimic it with just a decorative blade. So I am going to cut a base piece. You can see here, instead of using stickers to get that look, I just went ahead and measured and cut a whole piece of this blue that goes from edge, or that sits behind here. That was a choice there. I probably could have tried punching it with the double rickrack from the blue, but if you don't have double rickrack, you can just make it work with some strips of the decorative blade. So that particular piece, my measurements, I needed that to be a 2-inch wide piece of my blue paper that has the twist, that uses the twist. Now here's the thing. I was having all sorts of mental issues trying to math out some of this stuff, and so I made a few mistakes. So I have some scrap paper. This particular piece already has the twist blade on one edge, but it's not, it's wider than 2 inches. So I need to bring this back down to 2 inches. I'm gonna put my twist blade back in here, and I'm gonna cut off, it's about 1/4 inch I'm cutting off of this particular piece. But if you're cutting your blue paper, you're gonna have to establish one edge with your decorative blade and then cut it to 2 inches wide. So now I have my piece of 2-inch, the 2-inch wide of that holly, the blue holly paper. So next up, it's a two-tone piece here. You can see we've got a piece across the top and we have a piece across the bottom. This top piece is 3/4 inch. The bottom piece is 1 inch tall. So you have to think about how your papers are going to look together. I decided, again, I love the plaid. I love bringing all those colors in. It's a little busy, but I think it works. That's definitely needed to have something to separate the plaid from the angels. You would have lost the angels completely there. But I think it works okay, and I loved the red with the bow paper. So you can pick out whatever colors you want. You definitely could stake if you wanted to be more tonal. I probably could have come in maybe with like a darker green in here if I wanted to stay more tonal. Maybe even, depending what you have for scraps of paper, I could have even come in with a dark red in there. You kind of play around with it a little bit to see what you like. But I'm going to use the plaid. So what do I need? I need a 3/4 inch strip of the red paper. I'm pretty certain, let me see, I'm going to try to get a 3/4 inch piece out of this piece just because I want to see if I can. It's pretty narrow to try to cut. I need to cut off my decorative edge. It has a decorative edge that and I didn't take off my decorative blade. So let's try that again. I'm going to reestablish a straight edge. That is my goal. Reestablishing a straight edge. Now I need to cut this at 3/4 of an inch. Now 3/4 of an inch here is pretty tight, right? I mean, this piece right now, we are at like 1.25 inches, and I need it to be 3/4 of an inch. So I'm not going to be able to hold it. My options, if I can't hold it, I could try cutting it. It probably will do okay. I've got it, if I hold down the guide, it seemed like it did okay. Yeah, it did pretty good. Sometimes if it's really narrow and you're struggling a little bit, you can come in with a Post-it note and seal it right across in a couple spots. That will help keep it anchored into place. You could also use a little bit of repo adhesive on there, so in case you needed just a little bit more grip. But it worked out okay, and I've used up basically that scrap of paper. I can throw that all away. So I got my 3/4 inch. Now I need a 1-inch strip. And as I mentioned, I'm going to be using the plaid again. So 1-inch strip of plaid. These are the exact same measurements that are on the handout from the original blog post. I'm just changing out the papers. I am changing out the punch. I guarantee you nobody is going to notice a difference. If you did these candy cane ones a couple of years ago for your Christmas layout, and you're like, why would I want to redo the same borders? Well, you don't have to, but you can. Nobody will notice. I promise you. They're going to pick up on the fact that it's angels and it's different paper, and they're never going to realize that the overall border design is the same. And there's ways to change it up too. So here you go. These will stack on like such. What I'm looking for here is I am looking to make sure that when these two pieces are sandwiched next to each other, that I can still see my blue. That's what I wanted to be able to see. I wanted that blue to come in there. I just love this blue in there. It's kind of like a non-Christmas color, but really has that just cool winter undertone to it. So it's really pretty with the blue. And also I think, the magic of Christmas kind of had that, 1950s, 1960s Christmas nostalgia. And I think that blue was definitely something we saw a lot of. I had, one of my grandmothers had a lot of blue ornaments that were kind of in that faded bluish color, like not a real striking, like dark blue like this color, but more of that ice blue. All right, so now it's time to put these things together. And here's what I'm going to tell you. This was a little bit of I don't want to say, getting these pieces centered on this was a little bit of a pain in the rear end, okay? Because they're two pieces that you have to treat as one. So I'm actually going to cheat this, and I'm going to flip them over, and I'm going to use my tape chips. And I'm going to go ahead and these two pieces, so I have my 3/4 inch piece here and my 1-inch piece, I am going to use some tape chips and put them together so that I can treat them as one piece when it comes time to centering that on my border. So I'm just going to put a few tape chips on here. I'll actually be able to use that to help adhere everything to the border. I think I'm going to put 5. That's probably overkill. See, now I can treat this as one piece. So when it's time to center this on that blue, it's one piece. I don't have to line up I don't line up the red piece and then hope I've got it all centered correctly, which is what I tried to do on the other one. And it just took a while. It was a little bit of a nuisance. I can then come in, I can peel off the tape chip backing. If you guys do not have tape chips, I don't use tape chips a lot, but I do like them. So I do think it's a good option to have in your toolbox for certain applications. And then I'll come in with just a little bit more adhesive to make sure some of these edges don't start to pop. And this whole thing gets centered on that blue strip of paper that we cut with the I cut with the Rhythm, or am I using Twist? Which one? I'm using Twist. That one on there, it's so much easier than the first time I did this when I was making it. So much easier to center that as one piece as compared to trying to center it as two individual pieces that don't have one's bigger than the other. That was kind of crazy. So I'm looking for, there it is, my tape gun. Creative Memories said that they should hopefully have these tape guns back in stock in December, so if you're anxiously awaiting. Just as a reminder, on the Creative Memories website, you can go in and add, you can click to be notified. You log into your account, go to that item that's out of stock, and if it is returning, you will be able to click the little link that says notify me when it's back in stock, and Creative Memories will send you that email when it comes back in stock. So there we go. We've got everything nice and centered, all set to go. And then this, right down this seam here is where we're gonna put our angels. And I'm gonna have it so that where the angels meet right here, this is where, that's where the seam is going to sit. So you kind of work it to whatever fits best for you. If you wanted to have more of the red showing, you could bring it down a little bit more. I'm pretty much going up as high as I can. I wanted to have a little bit more of the up into the red. So you kind of make it work best for you. Get this piece on here. So thank you to everybody who's joining today. Because I know there's a lot of going on. There's some big football game if you happen to be an Iowa or a Nebraska fan. Maybe there's other football games going on. I don't know. Lots of football this weekend, I'm sure. How many of you did any Black Friday shopping already? I have a couple things in my cart at Stamp and Storage. Just as a reminder, they're doing their big, they have 25% off on the punch holders, which includes the carousels, as well as I think they're paper holders. They have a bunch of stuff on sale. You'll want to check that out. There we go. Lovely on there. And then you add whatever you want for your decoration here. So Judy's like Bears games at 2. Yeah. So, I'm so sorry. You guys are cold and windy in York. Yeah. So some football games today. We're going to be decorating the Christmas tree, I believe. I will say we're probably putting the tree up and we're going to see how Pip handles it. I'm a little worried that Pip is going to think he can climb the tree. He doesn't know better. Kitty's not very adventuresome. Pip, he is adventuresome. All right. So that was border number 2. So next up is border number 3. Now border number 3 is very much based on the border from the Creative Memories blog. However, I had to make some adjustments and I'll tell you why. So here's the original border. See, everything lovely on an angle. So much fun to use those just strips of border stickers or laser cut borders along with your BMCs. So you can see here, you're really just working those pieces. And for the most part, it's probably one of each of those borders. So they've used 3 here. They use kind of like a fur paper, the candy canes, and then a berry, and they've just layered it on. You can, the technique that they use here, I'll be using very similar, but I'm adjusting my measurements because I am leveraging the angle of the trees. You can see here in the tree paper, our trees, you can do a line of them if you cut the paper on an angle. So that is what I did. The biggest thing then is when I had that, I decided to keep it simple. I only added in one of the sets of the angels on the angle. I didn't worry about trying to bring in a third border. The Christmas trees are pretty detailed. They're also pretty wide. Just keeping it fairly simple here. So the big thing we have to do is we do need to cut our tree paper to get what we want. Now, what I discovered with this tree paper over a couple of different projects is there are some great ways to have reference points on here. We're actually going to use the star of our tree paper as a reference point. So we need to cut a piece of tree paper that is 2.5, I believe it's 2.5. Let me just double check my measurements. Yes, 2.5 inches wide. We're going to cut a piece of tree paper that is 2.5 inches wide. Now, this paper here is what I'm going to work with. Now, the problem is if I just cut from 2.5 inches over from this edge here, right here, see my star is pretty much cut in half. If I cut over 2.5 inches, what I have is a non-uniform piece. See, I'm going to have half a tree here. I'm going to have a partial tree there. And I am just way too particular about that. In general, if you just want to cut it at 2.5 inches, you'll be just fine. Now, if you're a little OCD about that, like I am, and you want things to be a little more centered, I'm going to show you how to do that. So we're going to take our tree paper And I know based on this piece that I've already cut, if I come in here and I cut just to the side of my star, as I can see a healthy amount of the blue on the outside edge of my star, I'm going to start my cut there. So I'm going to find where I've got a star right here, and I'm going to close my trimmer. And I hope many of you know about the sight guides that they have. That is, if you come up here to the top, right here, there's a little piece of plastic in there. Use your fingernail and pull it out. It has, see there, it has a lovely, can't really see it, it has a black line on it. And that tells you where your blade is going to cut all the way down. So I'm bringing it down so I can see my tree, and I'm going to line it up so that my sight guide is where I want it next to the tree. It's not on top, it's not coming down the center of that star. I'm coming down just to the right of that star. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. Once I have my sight guide where I like it, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just making it a little more centered. I'm not striving for perfection here. I am just trying to get it not quite as lopsided as the original cut would be based on where my paper is currently cut. So I'm going to come down to the right side of that star. I can see some blue to the right side of it. And I'm going to go ahead and cut. So there, I see I've got that. Now I'm going to cut over here. I'm going to cut it to 2.5 inches wide. So to do that, I actually need to rotate my paper around because this is the edge. I don't want to cut this edge that I've cut. I do not want to cut it again. I need to cut this side over here. So to do that, I'm going to actually rotate my paper around 180 degrees. Trees are still right side up. I can still see the trees, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut that paper at 2.5 inches. So what I've got is I've got trees down the center, and for the most part, I have it pretty even on the sides. So that was my goal, just to get it pretty even. Now, the next thing that we're going to do is we are going to cut these on an angle. I truly only need 3 pieces cut on an angle, 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to focus on getting this piece, and this piece. That's my goal. I think that should work. So how do we cut this on an angle? Because trust me, it's not like a 45 or anything convenient. It is some not helpful angle. We're going to use the in-between here, all right? Right down the center of this crack is where your blade is going to go. So you could bring your sight guide in if you wanted to, but really what I'm looking for is I'm looking to see an even amount of, you can kind of see it in there, the edge of this tree. I can kind of see the border of it here, and I'm looking to see about an equal amount of the border over here. So it takes a little bit of finagling, and you'll start to see it. Mess around with it a little bit, just move it, angle it a little bit until you start to see what feels like things being even. And that's what you're going for. You want it to be even. All right, that looks good. I'm going to cut. Now, I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to cut again. And I need to find this midway point. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Once you've established your first cut, my first cut was down here. All right. Now, what you're going to notice is I'm not all the way over to 1 3/4 inch. I can see a little bit of that edge, and that's going to put me in the middle of my next cut. So I'm going to use this edge here to help me be straight so that I can hopefully have, pieces that are uniform across that angle. And then, but I'm coming over here to double check that I'm seeing both sides of the tree designs, the borders. Take your time here. You're just going to have to do like 3 of these cuts. 1, 2, or 4. You need 3 pieces. You make 4 cuts. And go ahead and trim. And then you repeat that. Bring it not quite to that 3/4 inch, That's just kind of helping me get situated. And then I am coming back here and relying on those edges. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm gonna do one more. One more here. There we go. So now I have my 3 pieces. You can hold on to this in case you need a little bit of scrap, but I should be able to do everything. So I've got my 3 pieces here that I need. So I've got that piece cut, but what I do need, I can't put anything on anything else until I have, well, pause for just a second. We've cut these strips. Let's make our angel strip because that's pretty easy to do. You need a 1-inch piece of whatever color you want. I'm going to be using this fur, the green, the tonal green. I need it to be 1 inch. My piece here is a scrap. It's a little bit more than 1 inch. So I'm going to go ahead and cut it down. This is again where if you need to use those Post-it notes or a little bit of repositionable adhesive on there, but you need this to be about 1 inch tall, 1 inch. So next up, I need to mount my last strip of angels. So I can remember I cut 3 of the white shimmer. This is my 3rd angels, and I'm gonna go ahead and put it on here. Now you will see I do have an extra strip, and I needed an extra one. I'm hopefully gonna be able to tell you how to do it without needing an extra one. We're gonna go ahead, put this on the full 12 inches. It's gonna go all the way across, just centered. Just centered. Okay, there we go. So now what we need to do is we are going to, we need something to mount these pieces on. And if you see in there, I used yellow. The yellow tonal paper is what I got those mounted to. So our yellow tonal paper, I'm gonna cut to 2.5 inches wide. It is the same width as my tree paper, because my tree paper is going to sit on that 12-inch or that 2.5-inch wide piece. So yellow is the other side of the plaid, in case you're wondering. I'm going to cut a 2.5-inch piece of the yellow. Yeah, Shirley's pointing out that they have some Cyber Monday sales with Stamp and Storage. So they have the paper sleeves, the pockets, etc. Those are great tool items as well. I really do like their paper sleeves. I do use those quite a bit. So here we go. We've got our paper here. So this is what I'm going to be putting all of my pieces on. You can see this fits in there nicely. There'll be another piece that sits up here, and there's going to be this piece that sits down here, and so forth. It all fits very, very lovely on there, and we'll put our green pieces in the middle. So the first thing we need to do is I am going to go ahead and leave my yellow piece at the full 12 inches. I am going to bring it over here to the edge. I want to be able to utilize my ruler over here on the left edge. You could use the right edge, whichever you prefer. And I'm going to take one of my strips, or one of my angled cut trees, and I'm gonna grab some repo adhesive, and I'm gonna put some adhesive on here, on the back side. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it on here, and I need to center it as best I can in the middle. I wanna center it in the middle. Now, what I should have had you do is I should have had you get an idea, a feel for how tall these pieces are. So I'm using the one that has no adhesive on it. I have a full piece with no adhesive, and I'm gonna put it on my cutting mat here. And I can put it on here, and I'm putting it on at an angle. I want to be able to see for sure how it is. So it is showing edge to edge, and I can come up here to the top, and I can see I am not quite to 6.5 inches. So when I put this over here, I'm going to start just below. It looks like I can come down just below the I take it back. It's just above 2 3/4. If we're looking at the right side, or excuse me, the left side. So I'm going to start this just above 2 3/4. I'm going to angle it, put this on, and it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. It just gives me a decent reference point. I should have roughly the same above and below, right? So that's what we've got going on there. Now, I do need to come in with my angels. When you put your angels on, you want to make sure that you're going to, down here at the bottom, let me show you. You're going to want to line up this very corner here at the bottom. You do not want to have it, you don't want to do it like this. Just trust me, you don't. You're going to need every little scrap of this that you can get. So you're going to want to make sure that this corner right here is at the very edge of where you're going to put your border on. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put some adhesive on here. And I'm going to put it on there. That bottom corner is where I want it to sit. And I'm going to angle this. And I'm going for about an eighth of an inch maybe of that, of a kind of like a spacing between. I can tell I didn't quite get enough adhesive on there. And then when you cut this piece off, you do want to try to cut it as flush as possible. So I'm going to grab my scissors. You could use your trimmer if you wanted to. I'm going to cut it very, very flush. This is not one, if you don't want to mess with that, you could just make sure you cut a second, you'll need to make a second one of these probably. And I'm going to repeat the same thing up here. And I've already got a nice angled line there that I cut flush here. This is going to sit up there. Cut this flush again. Now I'm going to save this. I'm going to put it to the side for now. I'll come back to it in a minute. I have my two other pieces that I need to put on here. There. So here is my other at the bottom. Get that one put on. And then I'll go ahead and put this other piece up here at the top. Trying to keep that, maintain that same 1/8 inch between the pieces. Okay. So there is how we're looking so far. So I do see Amara saying something about using the angels. I would normally tell you yes, but I think the challenge is the angels by themselves are not wide enough to cover the trees. So I don't know that I have a piece that I can show you. I just don't think that you can go every other one. You maybe could try. That would definitely be an option to do. I just think when you look at it, it doesn't quite work out perfectly. It's maybe not too far off, but this is how my brain worked. I would love to see it if somebody else tries it a different way. So here we go. Here's where I stand. I still need to be able to come in at the top and the bottom with my angels. Now, the one thing I noted when I did this is because I wanted to have a little bit of green, this dark green cardstock showing all the way around, I ended up cutting off about 1/4 of an inch, well actually 1/8 of an inch from the top and 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. So I'm going to do that, and that will actually reduce the amount of this piece that I have to use. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to come here, line this up, and I'm going to cut off about 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. This is the bottom edge. I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. I have my straight edge on there. I'm going to come up here to the top, and I'm going to cut off, or this is the top, yeah, the top. Come up to the top and cut the same amount off. Now I have even reduced even more how much I need to have for that. So now I can come back to this piece that I have, and I'm going to be hopefully able, let's go up here first. Yes, we'll use the top piece. Put the top edge, depending on how you cut your pieces. For me, this top one's going to be easier to put on first. I am going to finagle it a little bit to show more of that white angel. And then go ahead and cut flush across the top. And then I will come in with my leftover, and it's going to sit here at the bottom. So yes, you can definitely get this all out of one piece, one strip of a 12-inch border here. But you're going to have to make sure, I recommend, with those little tips about being efficient when you put your paper on, especially when you start your first piece. And then you're going to want to bring everything, cut any overhang off, get it all, a little bit of an overhang here. And then we will cut a piece of dark green. Cut a piece of dark green cardstock. And I need that, I have that, it's a 2 3/4 by 12. 2 3/4 inch by 12. Stuff is sticking all over to my trimmer. 2 3/4 is how wide this is going to be. If you want to have more of a border all the way around it, you could go to maybe closer to like not quite 3 inches, and you'd have to trim your top and bottom a little bit more if you prefer to have a little bit of a chunkier border around it. But the 2 3/4 is a pretty decent width. 2 3/4 by 12. And this is going to sit on there with just a lovely, I think it's like as a panel border, like it's like a panel with, it's a framed out. It's a lovely technique with the borders. There we go. So we have our 2 sets of borders all set to go on the papers. So yes, there's definitely many ways that you guys could work to try to put these borders together. Kind of do it however to your heart's content, and whatever gets you the look that you're going after is definitely the correct way to do it. So I've got we put the 3 borders together today. And that's what I have for you guys today. I mean, it's, a lot of fun to put these together, and using the collection. The Magic of Christmas is it's a really lovely collection. There's a few papers in there that I struggled a little bit more with using, but these particular papers, I love the colors of them, kind of that soft muted holiday colors, and working in those gold shimmer papers, the the white shimmers as well. So very, very lovely there. In terms of Scrapbook Live, I will be back next week. I don't know the project yet, but we'll be making something. And then, so I have a couple weeks of Scrapbook Live, and then I will take a couple weeks off, leading. I'm not sure if I'll take I'll definitely be taking 2 of the Fridays off around Christmas, New Year's time, and then we'll be jumping right back in with all the good stuff coming in January with Creative Memories. We should here in about 2 to 5 minutes have a preview of what's being released with Creative Memories on Monday. So quite excited to be able to show you guys what that is and see what all the good products are. And then just as a reminder, Winter Frolic is going to be starting. That is the 8-week scrap challenge that I do with Tessa. It's a lot of fun for those of you who have joined us. I hope you're all registered, have joined us before. I hope you're all signed up and ready to go. We will open the group later in December. Right now it's more of a just get it it off your to-do list, get registered, request to join the group, and then we open the group up in later December. If you've never participated, it's a lot of fun. If you are looking for a gift certificate for a family member to gift you something, you can definitely do the Scrap Challenge as a gift certificate. We can connect you with your loved one with how to get that all set up. So you would just need to give them our email address, and we can go ahead and get that taken care of. And that email address is meganandtessa@gmail.com. You can also go to our website, Megan and Tessa, and I think there should be information on how to contact us through there. So we look forward to doing that with you guys every winter and every summer. So a lot of fun there. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else. No, Secret Box 5 is available to order for those of you who have earned that opportunity to order that. And yeah, the kind of good stuff there. So I think we'll learn more about what's all in it. I mean, if you've gotten it, you will start to receive those. Those did get shipped this week. You should start receiving those. I think I received maybe mine today or tomorrow. But you'll get to see what the contents are. I don't think there's anything about when you have to wait to open it, but maybe, just maybe, give people a little bit of a chance to get theirs boxes, to be surprised when they open it before you start sharing any pictures online. I really don't know. Creative Memories hasn't given us a specific date that's the official box opening, but it might be tied to the virtual crop, which would be 2 weeks from today. So, all right, everybody, take care. I will see you all again next week. If you have questions, please reach out to me. I am more than happy to help. So thanks so much.